They are shunned. They are ignored. They are abused. They are deplored. They are stepped on, blamed on, cussed on, spit on, kicked on, beat on, dumped on, pissed on. Hospitals won't keep them, so they're passed on. Rehabs can't handle them, so they're cast on. Family won't accept them. Society disrespects them. Send the police to collect them. Refusing to help, they dismiss them. A forced compliance through handcuff submission. Why in the hell are you so crazy? Go get yourself in check. You ain't playing solid with the full constructed deck. Grab yourself up by the bootstraps, straighten up, you know you can. Curtsy sexy like a woman, or strong and stoic like a man. Those voices you say haunt you, they're all up in your head. Just make yourself act normal or we'll treat you like you're dead. Society says how brutal. Your words, they sound so harsh. We're tender with the sick and those bounded by the dark, but thoughts take place of fiction, call forth discerning eyes, let truth prevail plainly over society's unspoken lie. A debilitating sickness we blatantly dismiss, so wrongly diagnosed that many go amiss. So quick to call them dope fiends, cause more to be misled. Let's choose to bypass help and criminalize instead. Roped off by shackles and hidden blocked doors, winged off in hospitals with shiny white floors, white padded playgrounds of locked metal horror. Fly-by-night doctors can't keep things in order. Straight jacket silenced and forced helmet heads. County paid shrink down, prescribe them more meds. $51.50 every month of the year. Then 3 days of lockdown, kick them out when they're clear. Discharge awaiting. New script in hand, instructions to head to the pharmacy downtown, but hit like a brick of undeniable reality. Their fears have returned, and so is their insanity. As their feet hit the sidewalk at anxiety's pace, the voices return like a slap in the face. Who the hell are you? Don't forget I'm here. I'm your biggest freaking nightmare. I'm your gut-entrenching fear. Poke, poke, pick, pick. I ain't going nowhere like a dog relentless tick. I'm that devil in your head and the monster in your dark. You catch me lurking in the side views, jumping trees throughout the park. As crazy as I make you, you pray for my depart. I ain't going nowhere. We will never be apart. Paralyzed by fear and expelled in deep defeat, imprisoned by the nightmares as they constantly repeat, plagued by constant worry and a torment runs so deep. Please someone, please someone. All they really want is a peaceful night of sleep. But they have no money, they have no car, can't get a job when the mind's gone so far. Where do they go? What do they do? Tried all the shelters, but they can't follow through. As hard as they want to follow the rules, the voices start rambling and chaos resumes. A needling Nelly of nagging necessity, a rambling Roger of rage and resisting Nick. Pick, slick, flick, bodies contort in an unconscious tick, dirt-matted hair of mayhem, monstrosity, caked urine clothes, the smell and atrocity, clinging to life on the road of despair, zombie apocalypse and garbage everywhere, hang by a thread, trash to be fed. Please, oh God, won't you just strike me dead?
Since 2018, the number of homeless in Stanislaus County spiked to nearly 2,927 in 2021 during the COVID-19 pandemic. Different reporting methods had to be used for this year due to social distancing protocols. Despite a nearly fourfold increase in California state homeless spending since 2018, there has not been a significant decrease in the number of Stanislaus County's homeless in the last 4 years. In 2025, nearly half of the county's homeless were living in places unsuitable for human habitation. In other words, a significant shortage of shelter for the community's unhoused remains. 72% of homeless survey respondents indicated they first became homeless in Stanislaus County. Nearly 75% of local respondents cited at least one of the following reasons for becoming homeless: loss of employment and unable to work, unable to pay rent and/or mortgage, asked to leave from their current living situation.
In the fall of 2018, tents sprang up in the corner of Graceada Park. Residents quickly called officials to move out those campers. But to where? Anywhere out of sight. Officials decided to allow campers to move to the Brook Park, near where Dry Creek enters the Tuolumne River. At first, there were only a few tents, but rapidly, it became overpopulated, with about 400 people in that small area. When Brook Village had grown to this size, the city decided to create the Modesto Outdoor Emergency Shelter, MOES. This was to be built on the floodplain of the Tuolumne River under the 9th Street Bridge. The floodplain at the bridge was selected for a temporary village of about 300 10 by 10 foot tents. Many wraparound social services were provided that were really necessary to serve people's needs. Deanna and Chuck are a married couple who greatly benefited from living in MOES.
I let my mental illness go untreated, and I treated my mental illness with dope. And I don't even know how he knew or how it happened, but one day we and him were getting high, and we weren't getting high anymore, and we were miserable.
That was the bottom for us, and that was it. We couldn't go no lower.
Yeah.
And the only way from there was up. Seeing everybody's insanity and knowing that I was acting like that made me want to change.
You know, when we were on the street or in the parks, we didn't have stability like we had at MOES. You know, we had a place where we could leave our stuff and we could go to a meeting and not have to take our sleeping bags and our backpacks with us. That's where our hope began, really.
Yep.
You know, you have to stay awake and alert to everything going on around you. And so that was a real good excuse to get high on methamphetamines.
When Brook came along and MOES came along, there was security there, so.
Yeah, it kind of let our guard down a little.
Bit,
We didn't. We could actually go to our tent and go to bed, you know, and close the tent door and go to sleep. But his mother, she was in the tent next to us. Mm-hmm. She cooked for us.
She took care of us.
She took care of us.
They have come a long ways from that time, and I am very, very, very proud of them, both of them. I hope they continue after I leave this world to take over and help the homeless.
The mayor, the city council, the police chief, the sheriff, everybody, they need to know what you think would help people the most who are homeless.
It doesn't matter if it's mental health rehab or drug rehabilitation, they need rehab.
Authorities closed MOES in late 2019. At this time, MOES had almost 500 residents. The expansion of the nearby low-barrier shelter increased its capacity to 182 beds, nowhere near enough to accommodate a majority of MOES residents. Even when there's enough shelter space for these homeless, almost none can stay the extended periods needed to acquire housing. Nearly 6 years later, many of the original MOES residents can still be found within 2 or 3 miles of the former MOES site. When the homeless are rousted from one location, they move to another. Even though a homeless camper may no longer be within Modesto jurisdictions, they are still likely to be found within nearby county or Caltrans jurisdictions or on private property. This is because they simply have nowhere to go. According to the Stanislaus Community System of Care in August 2025, the county has fewer than 700 emergency shelter beds for nearly 2,000 homeless.
Hi, I'm Major Darren Stratton of the Salvation Army Modesto Corps. Over my shoulder here you will see our Berberian shelter. It exists to help those who are experiencing homelessness have a place for shelter, for clothing, for a place to sleep, and to really have a place where individuals can experience a little bit of joy in their life and to know what it is to be safe and loved by those who are working here in our facility. Here we've come to our ACES community shelter, and it's a low barrier environment which is designed to allow individuals to come and seek shelter as soon as they need it, and without the traditional barriers that might exist in higher level of care programs, such as our Berberian shelter or other sheltering environments within the community. And then over here behind me we have the Access Center, and it really is central to everything that we do here on the campus. The Access Center is a partnership with the county, which provides places for our individuals to come and get help with identification, to be connected to other community services that might exist. And so it's designed to bring all of these programs together to provide a system of care that's going to help our men and women that come to us change their life circumstances, hopefully moving them towards permanent housing.
Our mission for the Salvation Army here is to run the Berberian shelter and the ACES low barrier shelter. Both of those shelters have over 180 beds apiece. And then we've got a day center where unsheltered folks who still live on the street are able to come by. We can see as few as 50 and as many as 150 of those folks each day. Both shelters have case management. Both shelters provide a bed, 3 meals a day, laundry, shower. The case management is arguably one of the most important services that we provide for these folks. Through the short-term post-hospitalization program, they can actually come into the shelter, and our job is to get them to their doctor's appointments. And they can stay as many as 6 months. Right now, we are just under 40 for that program, and it's a really neat option for folks to be able to come here and recover.
Do you think that a significant percentage of the homeless population you deal with will become self-sufficient?
The answer is no, that those people don't have enough money to be successful in housing for the remainder of their life. I think if you look right now at the demographics of folks in our shelter, almost half of those people are senior citizens who are unable to live on the monthly set-asides that they have, and that's a systemic issue.
When our residents come in, they go through a security check here to make sure there's no drugs, no weapons, nothing that they shouldn't have in the shelter. This is the first interaction with this intake coordinator that the resident has when they're coming into the shelter. So this is a very important role because this person really has to make them feel comfortable, make them feel like, hey, this is a good place, just make them feel like this is the right decision. And then they connect them to the caseworker, and then so on and so on. Everything moves in the moving parts kind of move together. But we're gonna be walking into what we call our day room, where our residents kind of hang out during the day. In the summers it's good because it's cooler in here. Winters it's warmer in here. So this is kind of where we have a TV available, computers available. Every residence does have the availability to get their laundry done. Our staff actually does their laundry for them. We wash all of our towels, we wash all of our sheets, we wash all of our blankets. Our main dorm. So in this dorm, they actually have 160 beds in this facility. On the north end, we have our men, and then in the middle, we have our partners area where you and the partners will stay on the top bunk, bottom bunk. Our women are in these last 3 rows. Try to keep it separated for the main reason, keep it safe in here. This low barrier shelter allows pets, we allow possessions, and we allow partners. If somebody comes in with a pet, you can actually see right here how this works. We have a bed available for them, but we also supply the kennel, the dog kennel, where the dog can stay at night. We supply the dog food. We supply all of the feeding utensils that are needed for the dog. So that's an awesome thing about this shelter, the low barrier shelter here at Salvation Army, is that we do allow the pets, and they're able to come in and be with their owners, and that just kind of alleviates the barrier. Once they get acclimated to the people around here, they're very well mannered. So as you look at a bed, they each get a wall-size locker. It has enough room to fit a lot of this stuff, and then they can hang their clothes as well. But with this locker, they do have a coinciding locker in the back. So as you can see, it's like a school locker, and it has enough room to fit some things in there. Those that are have some medical issues and they're not able to get on top bunks. So what we did is we cut down some bunks, and we made a few rows that are able to accommodate the bottom bunks. And so it just makes it easier for folks not to get on top bunks. If they're on bottom bunks, it's just a lot easier for these folks that have medical needs.
I became homeless because I had left the drug house. I was living in the drug house for 13 years. There's this one man just kept going in my room, and when I was going to work and stealing from me for 13 years, people were stealing from me. And I finally said, you know what? I can't do it no more. I'm gonna end up homeless in the street. So I left and I became homeless. I've been homeless like 7 years. It's been hard to try to find a place of my own. Came here to the shelter. This is the longest I've been in one. I usually couldn't last in a shelter, but for some reason, the employees here were wonderful. They are very, very kind-hearted. They made it easy for me to stay here, and because I see the love in the workers here, and that's one reason why I ended up staying long as I did. And then I also heard that they help you with housing. With Section 8 has helped me so much. They pay 30% of my rent. Whatever I can give, I give to the homeless people. And I also let them know about the street team, because the street team is what gave me hope and took me off homelessness. And street team will help you with everything and anything. You could change your life. You could go to school. They help you with everything. The street team, if it wasn't for them, I would not be here. I know that for a fact.
The Modesto Downtown Streets team is a program that helps people experiencing or at risk of homelessness by providing volunteer work, case management, and pathways to self-sufficiency through community beautification and cleanup.
So we're here at Start a Shift with the team members to, this is our launch point. This is where we start our day, and then we go off into the several areas in downtown Modesto to clean up parks, to clean up around businesses, to really beautify Modesto. So this is where we launch out of in the morning. So we keep all our supplies in here. We got some mega brutes that carry all of our supplies so our team members can effectively clean up the downtown area. We carry buckets and pickers. We had to clean up the small trash, but we also have shovels and some brooms to do the jobs that the pickers and the buckets just won't do. We have a small container here, but it works for us to be able to carry all of our supplies. It also serves as a place for our team members to store their bikes and some of their belongings during shift.
Some pickers go by vans, others scatter on foot. The pickers fill their buckets, then empty them into large clear bags that will be picked up by the city trash haulers.
Hi, I'm Nancy Grant, and I have been working with Ruby for a couple of years. Last we talked to you, Ruby, you were at the Gospel Mission, and we understand that you've come a long way since then, and we want to hear that story.
So when I came into the Modesto Gospel Mission off the streets, I came in with a lifetime full of guilt and shame. When you come to rehab or where you're in an environment like that and you're surrounded with people that are also just beginning their recovery journey, although there's hope and support there, what really helped me was the outside support that I got. So I had these group of women that really surrounded me, and Nancy's one of them. Such an important part of my recovery because I hated myself and I didn't believe in myself, and I'd been excommunicated from my family and my kids from years, and I'd had years of just wreckage. And today I sit here, I've graduated from the mission, I was able to get my driver's license back, and I'm in graduate school. There's already so many obstacles that homeless people are facing, whether it be drugs, whether it be there's no affordable housing, whether it's mental illness, and all these different obstacles. And what makes it worse, what makes it harder, is the way that you're treated by society. Now, even for me, as I sit here today in graduate school, I'm struggling to find an internship. Why? Because I lack job experience and I have some things on my record. I feel like it's my calling and my duty to want to give back. And so one day I would really like to work with the homeless mentally ill. So I think that the homeless problem sometimes feels really overwhelming for people, and people ask themselves, well, what can I do to make a difference? And I think what we forget is that when you're homeless and addicted, kindness becomes the rarity and disrespect becomes the norm. So much so that a simple interaction can really make a difference in someone's life.
Basically what the gospel mission is, we provide shelter, we provide food, and we provide programs. And I'll just touch on that. We provide emergency shelter, we provide food at 5 meals a day, and we do a day program, which is new from the last update. We do 7 days a week. We have a day program that men and women in our community can come during the day and hang out. It's staffed by peer navigators. We do recuperant care, which is from the hospitals, a discharge for clients that are homeless into our recuperant care program. Women and kids, we shelter women and kids. And then we do a youth after-school program for our youth in our community. And all those services are 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And ultimately, we see about 200 and 225 men and women and kids come through our shelter on a daily basis. So basically on our campus, our intent really when a community guest comes onto our facilities and our campus is that the programs that we have here, the services that we provide, they don't have to leave our campus in order to get what they need.
I'm excited to share a little bit about my story with you, and it actually starts right down Highway 99. I would consider my childhood having been a pretty typical childhood, playing outside, having fun. I had a brother and 2 sisters, and we didn't really need anything. I would consider myself as having been a happy kid. Around the time I got to high school, I started to hang out with what could be considered the wrong crowd and began experimenting with alcohol. It was around 18 when I tried my first Vicodin, and it wasn't recreationally, it was a prescription for me. I got prescribed it because of a minor surgery that I had, and that I still remember the feeling. I remember thinking, wow, this feels really good, and I wanted more. And so I stuck to my pain medication regimen for about 3 days before I started doubling up, because it wasn't giving me the same effect that I was getting used to. And once that prescription ran out, that's when I decided I needed to start finding it elsewhere. Fast forward my life to about 25. And at that point, I was a full IV heroin user. I was what you would consider to be your typical homeless drug addict, staying motel to motel, walking the streets at night. I had picked up a meth addiction that solely the purpose of my meth addiction was so that I could stay up late to try to make money, because I wanted to make money to buy more heroin. And that was it. That was my life. And I had accepted the fact that I was probably going to die this way. 3 different times I overdosed. I went to 3 30-day rehab facilities, all of which wanted to help me get clean. I did a 12-month recovery program. I tried to withdraw on my parents' couch. I tried to withdraw on friends' couches. I was picked up in the middle of the night and taken to a buddy's house to withdraw from there. When you're withdrawing from heroin, it's the weirdest sensation. You're both hot and ice cold at the same time, and I can attest to that because you put a blanket on and 2 seconds later you're drenched in sweat, and then 2 seconds later you're ice cold. And imagine that for 72 hours straight. And so I did. I went through that, and when I came out, I knew that that was an experience that I never wanted to relive, an experience that was eye-opening in the sense of this is what kept me homeless, was avoiding this right here. That if I had a button that I could press that would say, hey, if you stop doing heroin, I'll make it so you don't have any withdrawals whatsoever, I would have pressed it 1,000 times over. But that draw of avoiding a withdrawal kept me on the streets and had me willing to sleep under a bush.
Homelessness is a complex and pressing challenge that requires our collective attention, dedication, and innovative solutions. While we have made progress, we recognize that there is much more work to be done.
I believe that the City of Modesto is doing a great job under the leadership of our city manager in dealing with camp to home. But the issue today should be street to camp.
I'm going to continue to advocate for emergency shelter. It's something, as we've heard a lot today, that Councilmember Bavaro describes as street to camp.
And we need to do something in the short term, immediately, to be able to get the people off the streets and into a safe area. Not only to protect them, but to protect my family.
The city is doing a lot of great things. The issue is that what we're doing isn't making a big enough impact on the problem right now. And we have to be honest. I mean, the city's official policy is that we're housing 30 to 60% of the homeless in our parks, on our streets.
You know, you go deeper into the streets and you see senior citizens, people who lost their homes or are unable to pay their rent because they're living on income from Social Security, which, by the way, is taxable, both state and federal, and they can't afford to pay rent. You have disabled people, you have mentally and physically disabled, you have people who, women out there that have been abused.
We really have a responsibility to take the lead on this problem, and our residents just don't need to tolerate it anymore.
I'm disappointed, yes, but the reality is when I drive down Yosemite Boulevard after this meeting, I'm going to be looking at a third world country on by Perry Road and figure out how in the hell are we going to get this cleaned up, and how in the hell are we going to get people off our streets. But that's the way it is, and again, thank you, Mayor.
All right, Councilmember Alvarez.
Housing for homeless people who are in our shelters is very difficult to find. We just don't have enough housing. The idea of street to camp is for the homeless population to be able to have a place to go and be safe. We have people who are on our streets, in our parks, on our sidewalks, who have encampments, and they're there because there is nowhere else for them to go. Yet they are the population of homeless people who do not want services for whatever reason. They may have mental illness, maybe have addiction. You know, you don't want to have what we did with MOES, where the population was all mixed together. You know, you had one camp was with a family across the way with somebody who was, you know, mentally ill or was in prison. And so that created problems for people keeping their families safe. And so that's why it's important to have designated areas where you can best manage our homeless challenges.
Daly Avenue goes off south from Yosemite. It is on county land and makes a great homeless campsite. Recent sweeps by the county sheriff's office have chased dozens of our unhoused off the road. People were in tents or in RVs which could be driven off. Tons of unclaimed possessions were left, which were sent to the landfills. As part of SHARE, acronym for Stanislaus Homeless Advocacy and Resource Enterprise, Linnell Solomon provided food and support to dozens of our unhoused. Such sweeps make it very difficult to keep track of her people.
My name's Linnell Solomon. I do outreach for the homeless weekly, and I know many of these people by name, and today they're being evicted from their homes, their camp environment. It's heart-wrenching to watch. It reminds me of the Holocaust, the way they're being thrown out. They're leaving with whatever they can carry in their arms, and they have no place to go. They don't know where they're going to end up, and it's heart-wrenching. This is one of my friends out on Daly who's been booted, and then they moved, and now they're being booted again within the same 24 hours of their first move, and they don't know where they're going to go.
We were here, and then we moved to Spanker, but then this morning they went there already. The sheriff said that we need to move again, so we don't know where we're going.
Stanislaus Homeless Advocacy and Resource Enterprise is a nonprofit founded in 2020 by Frank Plouffe and myself to support people experiencing homelessness in the county. SHARE prides ourselves on providing prompt and no-nonsense, no-barrier help to homeless people in our community. Examples of that include basic necessities, short motel stays, transportation, limited case management, pet care, and more. In 2023, SHARE Advocates helped over 400 clients obtain these services by collaborating with nonprofits. Some of those nonprofit organizations include Turning Point, the Modesto Police Department, Community Health and Assistance Team, better known as CHAT.
Alan was found in downtown Modesto after his left leg was amputated. He was vague about how he got to Modesto after spending over 20 years on the streets of Sacramento. Because of HIPAA rules, we couldn't learn much about Alan's past history. He himself didn't seem to remember or comprehend much about his life. We did learn that he had been diagnosed as schizophrenic many years prior to coming to Modesto. Alan survived on handouts and the kindness of strangers until the day when a friend took him to a tent at the Modesto Outdoor Emergency Shelter, MOES, in 2018. At MOES, Alan had a tent, a bed, and a community. Alan did well at MOES and seemed content chatting occasionally with passers-by and taking advantage of visits from Dean Dodd's traveling shower shuttle to stay clean. When MOES was shut down, Alan went into Stanislaus County's low barrier shelter, only a couple of blocks away from where he had had a tent. Though the shelter had handicapped accessible bathrooms and showers, Alan left frequently. Within a short time, he was back on the streets. For a while, people who looked for him couldn't find him. Then, one day a volunteer found Alan downtown. He was clean. His remaining leg had been amputated. Alan was vague about what had happened. Shortly thereafter, he was once again living in his own waste. The late Randy Limburg, at that time employed by one of our local agencies for homelessness, despaired at the difficulty of finding appropriate help for Alan. A volunteer got Alan back to the shelter at least twice, but Alan wouldn't stay. Not long after Randy finally found Alan a room in care home, Alan died. As best we could tell, he was in his mid-50s and had been homeless over half of his life.
We're interviewing people who are being forced to move from their camp. You've been homeless about 2 years, and you've been at this spot about 2 months.
2 years ago, I was in a house, and my husband was working in sweet potatoes, and we were in the streets together for a year before that. He started to use fentanyl, and then it took his life ultimately. Just having no resources really for anybody else.
Things happen to people, and they have no other places to go.
Homeless people aren't what people assume or stereotype. You know, they are. Maybe you should talk to them and try to get their stories or understand where they're coming from. And we need a little bit more resources. If we had a dumpster or porta potties, you would have way less trash and way less, issues, I think.
There's a great misunderstanding of homeless people.
Yeah, they just assume that we're out here because we want to be. It's not we want to be. We have, it's not a choice. It's things happen.
Cheryl had been transferred to a motel on South 9th Street after the hotel she was living in burned down. We know she had a case manager and some income, but we don't know how she ended up on the street and stayed there after losing her motel room. She seemed confused about what had happened, saying only that she left because the roof caved in. Cheryl's was another case that Randy Limburg got involved in. When he asked her where she went to the bathroom, she pointed to her crotch. With the help of a Modesto police officer assigned to the homeless detail, Randy got Cheryl first to a hospital, then into a local shelter. Within a few weeks, she was back on the streets. It was only when a close relative got involved with Cheryl's case that she got lasting help in the form of a room and care home. That was when we learned Cheryl had a case manager. We never did learn how long Cheryl had been on the streets. Again, because of HIPAA rules and her own lack of awareness about her condition and history, it was hard to keep track of Cheryl. We did learn that Cheryl had at one point been transferred to a group home where she died late in 2023.
Here with Hawke and his friend Jose. They've been told they'll have to move their belongings tomorrow when Caltrans comes in to do a sweep.
We have to take our tent and all of our clothing, whatever belongings we have. They say they're going to help us clean, right? But they don't. All they do is come and make more mess. See, they said they don't have no problems with staying here, right? As long as we keep it clean. After a few times, they told them, he's like, you can't be here. You come back again, you're gonna go to jail. I said, all right then, you're gonna have to take me to jail because that's my home.
You're disabled from a bullet near your spine? That must be very painful.
Yeah, it is.
So do you get disability insurance?
No, I've still been waiting, man.
Oh.
I need to get a lawyer or something. My disability, get taken care of, so I can have some type of income to continue to take care of myself and a place to stay.
Do you think if you had a surgery, it could help your back?
Yes, most definitely. When you see a lot of drugs, you see a lot of people, they leave their homes or they have broken homes. They leave and then they turn to drugs, right? When they turn to drugs, it's all bad.
You see doctors, you see lawyers out here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, try a little bit of substance and before you know it, they're out here They lost their job, their house, their families.
I don't know, man. Hopefully something will get done. It's getting hard out here, you know what I mean?
I wish you guys the very best. We might come by tomorrow.
In her early or mid-40s, Sherry had been on and off the streets for years. She was one of the earliest residents of Brook Village, a homeless campsite that was set up in 2018. It was clear very early on that Sherry was cognitively challenged, harmless, and loved cats. Like Alan, Sherry was vague about her past, though it seems certain she had at one time lived with a family member. Sherry moved with other residents of Brook Village to MOES and did well, though she seemed mystified by considerations of personal hygiene. Because she was tiny, both physically and mentally disabled, and slow to comprehend, Sherry was an easy target for those who prey on the most vulnerable members of the homeless population. Both at Brook and MOES, she had people who watched out for her. When MOES was shut down, Sherry was transferred to the low-barrier shelter, just as Alan had been. She soon wandered away and joined a group of homeless people she had come to know over her years on the streets. Like Cheryl, Sherry had a case manager and an apparent source of regular income, probably from disability checks. Conditions for Alan, Cheryl, and Sherry were obviously extreme cases, but a very large percentage of homeless people live in situations almost as dire and equally desperate. Most women, the elderly, the small in stature, and anyone traumatized by the stress of homeless is vulnerable to assault, bullying, threats, and shakedowns, not to mention heat, cold, and sleep deprivation. The essential point about these cases is that it's neither pragmatic nor morally defensible to talk about them in terms of wanting help or making choices. Alan, Cheryl, and Sherry were not capable judges of their own distress, nor were they able to ensure their own health and safety while on the streets, though they were certainly capable enough when under a roof or tarp among caring peers and friends. All three will very likely tell you they don't want help. They will also accept offers of food and would almost certainly appreciate a safe place to sleep.
Tell you a little bit about this site to give you some background before you get a tour. This is a City of Sacramento owned site. It used to be a National Guard facility that was leased from the city for 50 years. And fortunately for us, the lease just expired. So our city manager was able to grab this property and get us started here. We've got a lot to do still. We've got surplus cabins they had and surplus FEMA trailers out here. We've got 130 guests right now, or clients. The goal is to probably up that if they can get some grants and buy some more cabins of some type. We also bring full services in, so we've got use of some of these buildings here that we can bring partnering agencies to give people a lot of services.
Steve started this company, like you said, to fill a gap. Most of the shelters here in Sacramento, they had all these barriers, people who are living on the streets. We understand that people are struggling with issues in their lives. They're struggling with trauma. We accept them. We train our staff on, to recognize the signs and symptoms of mental health disorders, but there's no barrier. So if they come in intoxicated, we understand. We'll work with them. So the city's Department of Community Response is our referral partner. They refer people here. Our clients who get connected to just primary health care one time, they're twice as likely to leave here to permanent housing. At our youth shelter, we've been doing the one-on-one therapy for quite a while. And our clients there who engage in the one-on-one therapy, 70% of them leave to permanent housing. And through experience, we've learned that a site like this with semi-permanent structures has a much lower insurance cost than our old site with tents on it. The tent site insurance was astronomically high. Our main goal, my main goal, is for our clients who stay here to stay here as long as it takes for them to recover.
Dignity Village Modesto marks the launch of a new interim supportive housing project designed to serve individuals experiencing both homelessness and behavioral health challenges. As a result of a public, private partnership and funded by a substantial state grant, the 42-unit facility offers private living spaces alongside shared amenities and on-site services, including case management and health referrals, to create a clear pathway toward stable, permanent housing.
Pastor Dan Lempino has been feeding homeless people in Modesto parks for 17 years, 3 days a week.
I didn't realize until after doing this for several years of how much need and poverty there is in California. One of the most important parts of what I believe is not to cram a message of Christ down their throat, a message that they got to change, they got to change, they got to change. Everybody needs to change. And actually what this video is about is people changing. And not just homeless people changing, but all of us need to change. God's love, the love that demonstrated by Jesus Christ, is a love that is unconditional, unselfish, and sacrificial. And the sacrificial is as important as any of it. It's just the hardest part. Sleep deprivation, they cannot sleep on the street and get good sleep on the street. It's not possible. And therefore, since they don't get good sleep, they won't make good decisions. Don't expect them to make good decisions if you don't give them good sleep. Doing something more than just giving food is totally doable in this city. There is an incredible amount of really good people in this city. And they're listening to this and they're watching this. And it's important that your goodness comes out and is demonstrated to the least. It is the greatest act that can be done, is when somebody who has shares with people who do not have.
Because not for one more hour, not for one more day, not for one more second can I live this way. I need help so badly with nowhere to turn. My mind's filled with torment and my stomach's a churn. The people, they hate me, their looks of disdain. If only I could express the immense amount of pain, but the words are not there, and nor do they care. My life is in shambles. This is more than I can bear. Then just as the dread begins to take hold, emotions combust and a mania unfolds of knife-slaying arms and jerks of slain terror, wielding wasps of black jacket horror, wild-eyed bandit on the road of no return, screaming obscenities where none go unheard, and just like a tick from a clock that goes tock, the monster inside is unable to stop. Uncontrolled rage gone off the wrong track. The wheels are on fire and there's no looking back. 911 chase down, an officer en route. Let's hog-tie that crazy in a zealous pursuit. Primal urge entrance and flaunting display. Shiny badge cop down on scene to save the day. Deafening sirens drown out their loud cries. Red and blue flash dance ignites the dark sky. An animalistic showdown, an epic classify. An ego-driven takedown of hero catch the bad guy. Arm taser hands and guns by our side. Get down on the ground, hold your freaking hands high. A flash flame surreal, played out in slow motion haze. Just another shameful capture of the mentally paralyzed. Their crippled contortment spread across the wet ground, their face on the pavement and their flailing arms bound. A 5150 to the hospital they flew, and another redo of the insanity I just presented to you.
On the street, but I still dream. Stars above me know my name. I've walked through storms, I felt the rain, but I still rise. I'm not the same. There's a new morning light shining hope in my eyes. I may be down, but I still fight. I'm alive. I'm alive. There's a new morning light shining hope in my eyes. I may be down, but I still fight. I'm alive. I'm alive. They stand where the shadows fall. No name, no face, just a wall between them and the world they knew. Empty hands, but hearts so wide. Worn out shoes, but dreams inside. Tell me who decides who's through. They're the invisible thread, stitching the world where it's torn. Not homeless, just left unborn. They're the ones we forget, but they're the invisible thread underneath.